Hello and welcome to Nigeria, the Road to 2019, a series of programs where Arise News places the audience and the choice at the heart of our coverage of the upcoming presidential elections. I'm Charles Aniagulu. Coming up in the next 30 minutes, all the news, comment and analysis that provide unrivaled insight into Nigeria 2019, including the two main candidates in Nigeria's presidential election have officially launched their campaigns, but will the battle ahead be bitter and bad-tempered, or will it be emollient and less confrontational? We speak with the APC and the PDP spokesman about the characters of their campaign, plus telling insight into where Nigeria has been and where it is headed in 2019 from arguably one of the most important politicians this country has ever produced. Now, let's look at a very modern conflict. The Nigerian presidential election is just 3 months away, and the race is looking desperately like it's going to be a close-run ballot. The two main candidates have officially launched their campaigns with promises to move the country forward. There are dozens of candidates standing for the election, but the contest is likely to be between the presidential candidates from the ruling APC and the main opposition PDP. Many voters say they still haven't decided whether to go for the PDP's candidate, former Vice President Atiku Abubakar, or give the APC's President Muhammadu Buhari a second term. Well, coming up, we'll talk with the campaign spokesman for Mr. Buhari and Mr. Abubakar, and we're also hoping to speak to Chief Ayo Adebanjo, who's one of the most important politicians this country has ever produced. In the meantime, though, as the campaigns kick off, it's nearly 4 years since the APC defeated the PDP at the 2015 elections. The APC candidate, Muhammadu Buhari, took over as president, promising to return Africa's most populous nation to prosperity. 4 years later, Mr. Buhari is seeking re-election, and as the campaign kicks off this week, has the APC lived up to its promises to Nigerians? Well, for more on this, I'm joined now in the studio by the spokesman of the Buhari campaign organization and senior advocate of Nigeria, Festus Keyamo. Thank you very much indeed for coming in.
Thank you for having
me. I know
this
is a busy period for you, so we appreciate your being here.
Thank you.
Just remind us of the central message from President Buhari to the Nigerian people as the official campaign season kicks off.
Well, the central message is that he has done enough to earn their trust, because he has done so much with so little available to him. And going forward, he's prepared to take them to the next level, as he expects that resources will improve as the non-oil sector grows under him. And of course, much more, so much more will be done. At the next level, there will be something for everybody, from school, feeding programs, the SIP program, to infrastructure, to even the rehabilitation of school education, health. You know, there'll be something for everybody at the next level. That is, I think, is the central message.
And is it your sense that at this level, before we move on to the next level, much has been achieved?
Yes, of course, given the resources available, much has been achieved, because, for instance, there were, some half-hearted efforts in the past to drive some social investment programs like the UWIN, under the old, the past administrations. But, those efforts stopped at perhaps the medium-scale entrepreneurs. But the kind of social investment program that has been run by this government has been the most aggressive and the most ambitious in Africa, because it went beyond the small and medium-scale entrepreneurs and went to, seek out even the very, petty traders. There's no kind of social investment program that has sought the very petty traders, the weak and the vulnerable. And by that, we even mean, for instance, the trader money, the market money, and the farmer's money. We're talking of things as small as 10,000 naira to improve, the petty trade of certain, women and then traders. People may think at times that, well, maybe that is too small. But I can tell you that some women in rural areas, they trek 2 kilometers every day to the market, carrying a basin on their heads, and what's in that basin? Perhaps the whole goods on the basin is just 2,000, 3,000 naira worth. At the end of the day, they will sell everything, make a profit of 500 or 1,000 naira and go back home. So that can be a lot for people at that level. So this government has actively sought for people at that level. And I think that the fact that the social investment program has been able to catch a lot of Nigerians, about 12 million Nigerians within that net, that social investment net, going to the next level, the numbers will increase, soccer will increase, for people at that level.
And how have Nigerians, I mean, you've obviously been traveling across the country, not just at the start of the campaign, but before that, assessing the mood of the country. How have they been describing their lives to you since Mr. Buhari took over nearly 4 years ago? And that includes not just people at the lower levels, but also business, availability of capital, the economy, all that sort of thing. I mean, have they been overwhelmed or underwhelmed in the last 4 years?
Well, we passed through difficult times, so we must accept that most Nigerians pass through some difficult times. The good thing about it is that over time now they're beginning to understand what happened, why it had to happen, the kind of government we ran in the past and where they left the country, where Buhari took over from. Somebody was traveling through Bauchi. I'll give you this example. And despite the fact, the difficult times that we passed through, the recession, the man was saying in Hausa to people, inside the bus, and they all agreed. He said, look, the pain you are suffering now in the leg is the bone setter trying to set the bone. It's not the person who break the leg. That's the kind of thing they are saying in the entire, so many rural areas now, especially in the north. So they understand. It's not that they are saying that, oh, well, our lives improved significantly or it did not improve and we are blaming Buhari as a result of it. They understand that what we are trying to do is to reset the button, to put us back on the right track, because we went through a difficult part and the wrong part for a long time, where we were very heavy in terms of handouts, but very low in terms of investing in infrastructure. Now, there are some other parts of Nigeria, level of Nigerians who are very happy too with the administration. For instance, the farmers. There's what they call the Anchors Borrower Scheme that made about 350,000 farmers, richer. 82 billion naira was provided by the central bank to make loans available to rice farmers, and all that, at the small level. And their, businesses grew. Not only that, they also had access to fertilizer at cheaper rate, because you know that we are also already producing fertilizer within the country before we had to import. But because of phosphate that we got from Morocco, we were able to provide, fertilizers locally, and so all the fertilizer blending plants roared back to life, many that were comatose before. For instance, the governor of Ebonyi State had to confess recently that, look, he had never seen it so good with fertilizer within Ebonyi State. So it has been a mixed grill, but even for those who are, who felt that things did not go very well, they understand exactly what happened, and they are prepared, I think, to give the president a second chance.
And we can ineluctably say that when the APC and President Buhari took over in 2015, that many Nigerians had very high expectations of the benefits that would accrue to them as a result.
Absolutely, they were. And of course, because of the very, very high hopes that they had, that is why it took time for people to even understand that we have made progress. They expected it to be here, but it came here, right. But we had actually left the ground, but they expected it to be higher. So that was why, they did not key into right. what they were trying to do as quickly as possible.
So in a sense, is it fair to say that rightly or wrongly, they feel that the Buhari government has let them down?
No, they feel, with explanations and a lot of aggressive work we have done in terms of educating them, that perhaps this president means well. He's resetting the economy. He's getting our priorities right again. For instance, we went 15 years without implementing any of the Millennium Development Goals. That should have pulled us out of poverty at this time. People who are trying to deceive the masses, they are trying to tell them that the whole problem, poverty, everything started in the last 3 years. But for elites like you and I and everybody, we know that for a long time we didn't get anything right. For instance, things we should have put in place for many years to be pulling us out of poverty little by little. It takes 2 decades to pull a nation out of poverty, at least 2 decades, not 3, 4 years, not 10 years. For India started implementing their goals in the 90s. China started in the 90s long ago, and they are now pulling out of poverty little by little. if you invest heavily in infrastructure that can make the citizens get access, equal access to the good things, good transportation, rail, roads, and power. For instance, if people in Kano can transport their goods to Lagos by train, without much hassles on the road, armed robbers, bad roads, broken down vehicles, and all of that, you will get tomatoes almost at the same price as it is in Kano and Lagos. These are the things that pull people out of poverty. It's not handouts, not giving them money in the pocket. So that is why the entire focus of the Buhari administration is not a razzmatazz. He's just reconcentrated all the effort on critical infrastructure, because he knows that in the long term, these are the things that will matter, not monies, not heavy cash in the pocket, and there are bad roads and all that. I mean, before you go to see a minister in the office, every minister sits in the office, the first thing, he puts 3 million, 5 million under the table every day, because he knows that people will come. And as they're coming, you take 200,000, 500,000. As he has given you, it's giving you, that is health services giving you. That is good roads. That is railway he's giving you. And when you go out, these things are not available, but you're happy you have money in your pocket. But you are going through bad road. You don't have rail to, if you go to a minister now in his office, he's looking at you, he's looking at him. When you finish after 2 hours of discussion, he says, bye-bye, thank you very much. Because the TSA has curbed all of that now. No minister can say, I approve and release money. It has to go through a central system called the TSA. So we've curbed corruption in that regard. So people should understand, we appeal to people to understand that this whole thing that is happening is resetting the whole thing. And it's going to take time to pull out of poverty. It's going to take a long time. It is an accumulation of all we have suffered over the years that we are seeing now. And people are beginning to understand. And the clearest evidence that people are understanding? Let me tell you the clearest evidence. Since 2015, despite all the sufferings and all the bad times we passed through, but we're pulling out of now, the president's party won all the major elections, midterm elections that were held. That's a verdict. It's not about social media. It's not. The verdict of the people is in the polls. So the midterm elections that were held, they lost Kogi, they lost Edo, they lost Ekiti, they lost Osun, they lost Anambra, they lost almost all the big elections. They lost most of the by-elections they held. Up to last week, they lost elections where they thought the president had lost grounds. In the middle belt, the president's party won last week again. It is a clear indication of where the people are going.
The point, of course, is that people tend to vote in all elections, by-elections, parliamentary elections, although at the back of it all is hovering the party that the candidate represents. They tend to vote for that candidate who is from their own sort of neighborhood. And the point really is that when it comes to the presidential elections, it's going to be looking at the record of the president in the past 4 years. Do you think that, given all the things that you've said, it's going to make your job as a campaign spokesman and somebody who's leading the charge on behalf of President Buhari considerably more difficult?
Well, it's just a job. I won't say it's difficult or simple. It's just a task that must be done. I'm not trying to, put it on the scale. It's just a job to explain to people. Yeah, it's a job to explain to people.
And you've admitted that a lot of them need to be convinced.
Oh, yes. And all you need to do is to get the facts correctly. And that is what we have tried to do. There are 2 documents we launched. We were very careful to launch 2 documents on Sunday. We knew, of course, that it wasn't going to be about promises. And I think that's the mistake the main opposition is making. It's not about the policy document. They need to tell Nigerians how they got it wrong for 16 years. We are both running on records. I want Nigerians to please understand that one party cannot be allowed to run on promises at this time. No, I'm sorry, no. But all we saw in their policy document are promises. I'm sorry, it cannot happen. They had a record for 16 years. We had a record for
quite a lot in 16 years.
No, we would have interrogated it. They didn't put it. We have a different view that they didn't achieve, because critical infrastructure that develop a nation, they were not put in place. For instance, in 16 years, you know that the way to go now all over the world is rail. Where is the rail network? Despite all the monies they earned in oil, despite the peak, they got the peak of production at one time, 2.3 million barrels per day, OPEC allocation. Where are the roads? Where are the roads? Where are the rail? Where is power? Like the president, asked in the desperation at the point. Where is power? Where? I mean, we think differently, that when Nigerians interrogate them further, they will see the clear difference in what the presidency is doing. I think it's second Niger bridge, for instance. Just a small explanation to understand where we're coming from. For 16 years, a very important project like the second Niger bridge, that should have been completed by now. It was a drawing on a table for 16 years, architectural drawing. They kept designing, redesigning, and it was beautiful on the table, nothing on the ground. In 2.5 years, not even 3.5 years, because it took some time before they took off. You are now seeing pillars standing already. And then they have the guts to go and look and say, we are only seeing 4 pillars, we are seeing 5 pillars. Is that not shameless? For people who could not do anything for 16 years, they are counting pillars now coming up, and they are saying, is it only pillars we are seeing? The Fashola explained the other time that it takes for one pillar to come out from under the seabed to come up, because you have to pile it under the sea. It's like building 12-story upstairs, one pillar coming up alone. But the work is in progress, and the president moved it quite, conveniently and cleverly from normal budgetary provisions to the Presidential Intervention Development Fund (PIDF) to ensure that it's not short of funds. So it is being constructed under the PIDF right now. So these are the kind of things where we think that Nigerians should interrogate them. What did you really do for 16 years in terms of? We keep repeating critical infrastructure that should have uplifted the poor, should have made everybody have things available.
Well, in fairness to them, and we're going to have to take a break in a minute, but in fairness to them, in terms of uplifting the poor, they put a very crucial benefit, a crucial instrument here for them, the GSM telephone, which absolutely revolutionized the Niger. Yeah, but it's something to crow about.
People are even laughing at that narrative. I have seen people laughing, really laughing loud. I said, what are you talking about? It is no, because it was available all over the world. In fact, Benin Republic got it before us. Benin Republic, as poor as they are. I mean, with respect to Nigeria, it wasn't anything exceptional. GSM was sweeping around the world at that time. So
okay.
It was just a technology.
Well, I'm going to ask you to stay with us. Festus Keyamo, who is the Buhari Campaign Organization spokesman and, of course, a senior advocate of Nigeria. You're watching Nigeria, the road to 2019. Plenty more still ahead, including as the kickoff whistle has been blown by Nigeria's Electoral Commission. We continue our discussion with the campaign spokesman of the APC. Stay with us. Welcome back to Nigeria 2019. I'm Charles Aniegolu, and of course we are having a chat with the campaign spokesman for the Buhari organization. The Buhari Campaign Organization is also a senior advocate of Nigeria, Festus Keyamo. He's with me here in the studio. Thank you very much indeed for staying with us. How difficult has it been for Mr. Buhari working with a ruling establishment and a political class that he himself has often said in the past, before he took over, were the problem with Nigeria and needed to be sanitized? In other words, draining the swamp, as it were. How much of a challenge has it been for him?
Well, I think the nation has witnessed these problems within the last 3.5 years. I'm sure you saw the problems of padded budgets, budget delays, and of course you know why the budgets were delayed, because it was clear, the president had to say it during the last time he was signing the budget, that he just did not want to give in. It was obvious that they wanted to compromise him, and he said, I'm sorry, no, and this was at the risk of the economy, because this economy just coming out of recession that needed, a lot of reflation. You needed to keep pumping money into the economy, and so that gap was, a problem. So you have to contend with these options. Do you put the economy at risk and then don't give up, and the fight against corruption and all of that? So it has always been a push and pull action for him, but it's been pretty difficult. But you can see that consistently the president keeps saying that he has no regrets and he's not going to give up. He keeps saying so. And I think that right now, I mean, why was he doing all of that? He was doing all of that not for himself, but for the Nigerian people. I keep saying it, and I'm saying it with all sense of seriousness, that the president has fought for the ordinary man in the last 3.5 years. His concentration has been, let us have a level playing field. Let us protect the ordinary man, the very weak and vulnerable. And for me, it is time for them to reciprocate, for them to fight for him now.
Payback time.
They have to fight for him now. And I think that is what we are seeing now. They are fighting for him.
Right, but in a sense, just going back to what we were talking about a moment ago, about draining the swamp in the Nigerian context, is it right to say that Nigerians were a bit naive to expect an outright different government from previous ones? Because it's like, I mean, it's a bit like putting old wine in a new jar.
Well, the complete revolution may not have happened. Nigerians were within their rights to expect and hope for the best. So we are not going to sit down here and undermine and degrade Nigerians. All citizens across the world, when they're going to the polls, they always expect for the best, because their hopes always rise with all the noise of jingles. We shall do this, we shall do that, and all of that. But then once a government settles down, reality settles in most times. Reality sets in once the government settles down.
Yeah, but there's so many people in this government who were part of the very government that Mr. Buhari consistently criticized, the very establishment that he thought was wrong for this country, that needed to be sanitized. I mean, Mr. Buhari, critical of the PDP in 2015, a lot of the people who were in the PDP joined the APC in 2014. I mean, many people looking back now might feel that what happened in 2015 was the removal of the head of the establishment, but the body was still the same, because many of the people who formed the APC came from the PDP. I mean, I'm trying to see, just purely, not just for, because we have a global audience, for people to understand the context in which Mr. Buhari has had to operate and the challenges that he's faced, and the fact that he's still essentially operating with the same people.
Let me tell you this, if you don't know. The Nigerian Constitution provides for the formation of political parties. And one of the key things, one of the key provisions of the Constitution is that all political parties must be open to everybody of all creeds and colors and all that. So if you form a political party and you put any clause there that says gays or corrupt or people who have been in other political parties in the past and all that cannot join your political party, you cannot even be registered.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean you bring corrupt people into your establishment.
Can I finish?
Yeah, go ahead.
You cannot even be registered as a political party. They will stop you from registration. You must open your party to everybody. Now, once you open your party to everybody, you cannot then stop people physically from going to pick your party card. It's not possible. It's not possible. You cannot also put in your constitution a provision that violates the Nigerian constitution, except what you can put there are people who are ex-convicts, clear bankrupts. You can put it there because the constitution forbids them from playing active role in political affairs. Now, having done that, now you cannot then stop people who have questionable characters from streaming into your party. But let me tell you the difference. And this is that's why I like your question so much. What matters is the head of the party. Because in most cases, if you are coming with any kind of tendency into that party, you must subject yourself to the new leadership that you find, under which you find yourself. And so the difference really between the APC and previous governments is the head, especially the president and the vice president. These two individuals have sterling qualities over the years that you could not have associated them with any kind of scandal in the past, or opposition party, or any corrupt practice in the past. So that is the leadership under which all of these people must bring themselves. And guess what? Those who could not really, bring themselves under this leadership in the last 3.5 years, those who could not synchronize their ways, they have left. You see them? They left back in droves. So there's a natural process of sifting going on. Those who also thought that coming in, they will have some kind of protection, their cases will be stopped, their cases will be withdrawn, there will be some kind of deals that will go on. They are being convicted now. 2 governors convicted are of the ruling party, ex-governors. Nobody tried to stop their cases. They were tried and convicted. Guess what? And I'm sure you have read, I don't want to call names here. Candidates of the ruling party now who have just been selected to run for elections, their law enforcement agents are chasing them all over the place now.
Yes,
they want to charge them to court.
In fairness
Do
to
you,
I've read some of that
yes,
as well.
no, and you know, this kind of thing would never happen before because they will just rein all of them in.
Right.
They will rein in the FCC, right, stop this nonsense. It's going to damage the party. But this president, give him credit, please.
Right. Nevertheless,
yes,
there's been a call by the former British minister in charge of international development, Priti Patel, warning potential investors to be wary of investing in Nigeria because she says that despite, it's in today's paper, that despite President Buhari's anti-corruption platform, Nigeria has not seen any reduction in corruption since Mr. Buhari took office. One of the press secretaries to the president has been responding to that. It's been in the papers today. Garba Shehu, what's your reaction to that?
I want you to put that comment side by side with the comment of the American, no less person than the American president when Buhari visited America. What did he say? I was listening to the soundbite this morning. He said, we know that there's a lot of corruption in that country, but we also know that the president has done a lot in that regard to bring it down.
Yeah, but
so
he also said that Mr. Buhari is one of the most lifeless
people.
No,
he did not say so.
He did
that
say
is no, he did not say so. You see, these are the things. These are the things some of us laugh over and quarrel over because these things are everywhere and nobody said no. We need to get the sound bites. The sound bites of the president of the United States that we heard is that this president is doing a lot to bring down corruption.
He didn't say this in public.
He said so in public.
I'm not talking about this one. I'm saying the other thing.
No,
he
but
didn't say it in public.
So a news station like Arise, with all of these gadgets, you are subscribing to rumor.
No, it's not rumor.
Who confirmed it?
That fact is authenticated by White House correspondents.
No. Nobody confirmed that through any confirmed source. And we have just been laughing about all of that since. We've been laughing all of that. The major and the critical thing that is important in African nations, and you agree with me, is the stellar quality to be able to fight corruption. Corruption is the elephant in the room in Africa.
Yeah, but you still haven't reacted to Priti Patel's comments.
I only put that
right
to show you that it is just a private comment, and it cannot match the comments of the American president who has more information about her. It's just a private comment.
I don't think she said that you are not making some overture in the direction of fighting corruption. What she said was that despite President Buhari's anti-corruption platform, Nigeria has not seen any significant reduction in corruption since Mr. Buhari took office.
But I'm telling you that the American president said you have done a lot in that area. You have done a lot in fighting that. He said so. So, I mean, put it side by side. If there has been no effort, no result, the American president will not say so. So at the end of the day, what I'm saying is that it is purely a private comment by a private person somewhere. It cannot match the views of the president of the United States of America about our anti-corruption posture. Do not forget too that there are other testimonies across the world as to the anti-corruption posture of the president. There's nobody can argue that. If we start to reel them out now, we will eat up all the time here. There's no government in the past that has gone after recovery of stolen funds like this president. No government in the past has done so. So much so that yesterday, I think the Garba Shehu said from $2 million in the recovery account, it has gone up to 400 billion naira now in the account.
Yes, I read that.
In the recovery account. People should give credit when they see one. They should not be blinded by politics or hatred. No government has done it in the past. It is only under this government that you see a property worth 37 billion naira in Banana Island. And they went for an interim forfeiture of the property and they advertised for 1 month. For 1 month, nobody came out to claim a property worth 37 billion. Everybody ran and left the property. The federal government has recovered it on behalf of the Nigerian people. Last week, 57 billion naira in various accounts, no BVN, nothing, stolen money. The federal government also announced 1 week, they got an interim order. Whoever has these monies, come and collect the monies. Everybody ran away and left those monies. Those monies have been recovered on behalf of the Nigerian people. People should please give credit where they should give. No government, in the history of Nigeria has made this kind of effort to recover public funds on behalf of the Nigerian people. And you saw that almost all the arms deal, you saw former ministers returning money, some 400 million, 600 million, 700 million, and all of that. So if for anybody to say that we have not moved from where we were in 2015 will be lying. We have not reached where we are going. I must admit, I'm not a sycophantic supporter. I keep saying so. Where there are flaws, I will say there are flaws. We cannot judge ourselves by world standards now. We cannot. But we must look at where we were and where we have arrived at this point.
In the context of what you've just said, which you've put quite eloquently there, tell us how you plan to set out the campaign for Mr. Buhari, because every decision a political leader takes controls the lives of millions of people. So you can understand why people look to your campaign to raise the bar for Nigerian leaders.
Well, if you want to ask about the direction of our campaign, it's about letting Nigerians know that we are moving to a level, that's what we call the next level, higher than where we have been able to take them to at this time. And let me tell you one of the major areas that they should look up to. It is the economic recovery and growth plan. Within that plan, in fact, we saw the policy document of the main opposition, and we thought it was a rehash of the economic recovery and growth plan. First of all, to ensure that they stabilize the macroeconomics. So to get the GDP correctly after some time, we expand the economy, we expand, rail transportation, we get power down to the grassroots and all of that. Now, what did government set out to do? They said, look, before the big plans come on stage, before the big plans of getting 11,000 megawatts, 15,000 megawatts and all that, can we just do something now to jumpstart the economy? They went to clusters of markets around the country. And 6 clusters of markets are enjoying that now. And they said, look, because they know that the macro, small and medium scale entrepreneurs, they are in those markets. They are doing shoes, they are doing all small things. They are cobblers, they are making money. And because of light, most of them will have to carry generators all the time. You hear the old markets, and then it increases their noise, their cost of production, because they have to buy fuel, they have to buy generators. They say, no, hold on. Let us take 6 pilot schemes. They went to 6 markets around the country, and they put what they call the solar power system that must provide power from 8 o'clock in the morning to 5 uninterrupted, so that it can boost trade. One is the area market. One is, I think, the Sabongeri market in Kano and all that. The last time the vice president went to area markets in Abia, it was electric. I'm sure you saw the footage. The traders went berserk because they had not seen that kind of thing all their lives. So that kind of attention to details in terms of uplifting the life of people from that level. Now they are enjoying this power supply uninterrupted in 6 markets, pilot scheme. The next level, they want to expand it to other markets in the country. To say, look, we know you can go home and, manage darkness for some time, but look, the most important thing is commerce. Get your business going. So this pilot scheme has started to work. We want Nigerians to support it, we want Nigerians to applaud it, and it's going to go to the next level. But don't forget too, that on the larger scale, larger picture regarding power, the Mambila Power Project, there has been a problem, not for only the PDP, it was a military project that was abandoned because there were legal problems, you remember? Legal problems and all kinds of problems regarding the Mambila Power Project. Now, the federal government has been able to remove all those legal problems. For 16 years, the PDP could not touch the Mambila Power, which is about the most important power project that has been on the table for the past 2 decades in Nigeria. But then they could not take off. In 3.5 years, Nigerians should please note the timelines. The Mambila Power Project is about to take off. They have signed off all the legal problems, and it's going to bring in 3,050 megawatts into the national grid. Somebody was asking the last time that how could we raise 4,000 megawatts to 7,000 megawatts where we are now before we're talking about the next level when we did not build new power stations. And I said that is myopic because you know that the 4,000 was not the installed capacity. So you can increase from 4,000 to 7,000 without having to build new power stations.
Right.
Because all you need to do is to increase the installed capacity of these existing power stations. And that was what we did. They just increased the installed capacities and it moved from 4,000 to 7,000.
Right.
Once Mambila comes on track, it's going to move to the next level.
Okay.
And that is the next level regarding power.
Well, I'm going to ask you to just pause for a second. Festus Keyamo, you're watching Nigeria, the road to 2019. Plenty more still ahead. We continue our chat with the man whose job it is to articulate the campaign objectives of the APC presidential candidate Muhammadu Buhari. Stay with us. Welcome back to Nigeria, the road to 2019. I'm Charles Anyegolo. Now, nearly 4 years ago, the People's Democratic Party, or PDP, was voted out of presidential office after 16 continuous years in power. Now, in the opposition, the PDP is gearing up for a massive campaign across Nigeria to try to win back lost ground. So, what does the party and its presidential candidate, Atiku Abubakar, have in store for Nigerians? Well, unfortunately, the spokesman for the Atiku campaign organization, who was supposed to be here with us, is not available to explain his point and put that across, but we want it to be clear that we offered the opportunity to balance this program and the Atiku campaign, who promised that they were going to be here and not here. But someone who is here is a spokesman for the Buhari campaign organization, Festus Keyamo, senior advocate of Nigeria. And thank you very much indeed for staying with us. How important should restructuring be as a campaign issue going into the 2019 election?
Well, I think that it has been an issue, on the front burner for so many years in this country. But there has been a lot of misconceptions and a lot of also half-hearted efforts in the past to really confront it once and for all. Most importantly, too, there has been complete divergence of views about it, depending on because of the multiracial, nature, tribal nature of Nigeria. Because restructuring deals with those issues of regional issues and all of that. And so you expect that there will be push and pull action between the various regions. You take this, I'm taking this, you take this. So it creates this divergence of views. Now, it's important to the extent that we accept that this is the way to go in terms of achieving it. What we don't want to get involved in, and what the president will never do, is to deceive the Nigerian people and use it as a mantra to get into office, and then see the impossibility of it. Now, in the last few weeks, we have aggressively told the Nigerian people about how you need constitutional amendments to effect restructuring. Mm-hmm. Anybody who tells you that he can restructure Nigeria outside constitutional amendments right now, the person is simply lying to the Nigerian people. Simply. Because devolution of powers, fiscal federalism are issues that are constitutional. And those are the main issues regarding restructuring. State police and all that, they're all there. But these are the major parts, devolution of powers, and of course, fiscal federalism and all of that. Now, how can a candidate come and say, I want to restructure Nigeria in 6 months? It's not just going to happen. First of all, you need 2/3 of the states of the federation, houses of assembly, of the states of the federation to concede to a constitutional amendment.
But I don't mean to interrupt you, Mr. Keyamo. The problem there is that the Nigerian people are not seeing any moves at all on the part of the Buhari government, apart from the fact that they set up a committee which was headed by the governor of Kaduna State, Nasser El-Rufai. I mean, he finished it, it was done, and it was simply put on the shelf. I mean, I'm just going to remind you that when the APC were running for office in 2015, their manifesto was very clear. They had quite a number of promises, And one of those promises was to initiate action, and I'm quoting directly, to amend the Nigerian constitution with a view to devolving powers, duties, and responsibilities to states in order to entrench true federalism and the federal spirit. In other words, the APC promised to restructure Nigeria, and it hasn't done so.
Now, have they started the process?
We haven't seen
The process, first of all, is to collate views. Because the restructuring we are talking about is not a template somewhere where we're just going to pick and implement. The verdict is still out there regarding what kind of restructuring we want. And so it needs a lot of engagements.
Yeah, but the point is that we're not seeing anything that tells the Nigerian people that this government, as it promised, as the APC party promised before it came into office, that this government is taking that promise and trying to implement it. If we look at the fight against corruption, for example, it's pretty clear. Everybody across Africa, across the world, as you correctly pointed out, is saying that yes, Mr. Buhari is doing something in that direction. You can't say the same thing for restructuring.
The party that you quoted now, not the president, the party, set up a committee, the El Rufai Committee, on restructuring. They submitted a report early this year. After submitting their report this year, what next? The next thing will be perhaps to look at it, set up some other committees or whatever to look at it, or to push it to the National Assembly. Now, it means therefore that what we need to do, what the party promised and needs to do, it has done it. It has set up an internal committee, they have recommended. Now, going forward, you know that this is political era. So, can it be achieved within this, 8th assembly? Would it be submitted? I don't think it can be submitted within this 8th assembly because right now you know that nothing serious about constitutional amendment can happen between now and when they hand over. But then the fact that there was a report, it means that there's some kind of work in progress. The president has never said at any point in time that if they properly amend the constitution and bring it to him for assent, that he's going to turn down his assent. So whatever the Nigerian people want, let them do it through the National Assembly. Let them do it, really, because the bulk of work would be with the National Assembly, really. It's not the president. The president would only say, look, I am giving assent to it.
Yeah, but the president has been quoted saying different things. I mean, there is a lot of equivocation, and that is an issue that is very, very important to the Nigerian people.
You see, the point is that the personal opinion of the president and what he wants cannot override the Nigerian people. He cannot.
Yeah, but
so
it sends the wrong signals. It sends the wrong signals if the president is not seen to... I mean, if the president is equivocating on corruption, if he's equivocating on reforming the Nigerian economy, if he's equivocating on security, I mean, you can't say that it's going to supersede or not supersede the Nigerian people. This is the person who gives direction to all those who are watching Nigeria and who want to play with the Nigerian economy in the sense of invest money in it, the people who want to do a lot of things, and all the issues there, all the signals include restructuring the economy. And we're not hearing that from the president. But I'm not going to dwell on that. Let's move.
Well,
sorry, you wanted to respond. Go ahead.
I just want to say that there is no time this president has said, I am opposed to restructuring. He has never said so. All he has said, as far as it's gone, is that people who are advocates of it are not clear as to what they want. That is what he keeps saying. They are not clear. There's no consensus about it. And is that true? Yes, it is true, because many parts, this country, we should understand that it does not stop and end in one part of the country. The other parts of the country have totally different views about restructuring. So as a president of everyone, don't expect him to pander to the views of just a few, or just a part, not a few, maybe just a part.
Yeah, but
so he will not pander to it. All he wants, if he can get it, is a consensus. If there's a consensus, why not?
No, but the point is that the key issue here is that was a central plank of their campaign manifesto, the APC, of which the president was not only a part, he was the leader.
Yeah, but the APC has done that on that part. The APC as a party has done that.
He just said they set up a committee.
They have started a process
several years after they took over.
Absolutely.
And in reaction to the fact that, not to say, right, we said this from the get-go, we're going to do this. It was in reaction to a lot of agitation, a lot of anger that, well, wait a minute, what's going on here?
Well,
and eventually they did it. But let me ask you something else. Should there be a television presidential debate in this campaign where the candidates set out their competing visions? And I mean Mr. Buhari, Mr. Atiku, and the other presidential candidates, and enthuse Nigerians with the passion and the wit and the argument they have for having them either re-elected or elected to the position of president.
The president, as you know, has in the past taken active part in televised
We're not talking about the
debate.
past.
No, I just want to let you know that. Has taken, I'm laying a foundation for what I'm going to say.
Sure, okay.
Has taken active part in televised debates. So nobody can argue that he's somebody who is camera shy. No. Now the decision whether he will take part this time must be a collective decision of the entire, war room, in quotes. The whole, given, for example, those who are organizing it, and all the circumstances taken into consideration. But I do accept that as a basic rule, the Nigerian people must hear from their candidates. But the decision as to yes or no cannot be my sole decision.
Oh, I totally understand that. Yes. But as a campaign spokesman and as someone leading the campaign charge, you would advise your candidate to take part in a debate with other presidential candidates.
Advice will be a collective decision.
No, but I'm
asking
asking
you. It's
you.
not my advice alone. It has to be a collective decision of everyone. And don't forget that you cannot take this in isolation of the circumstances. For instance, I'll give you this example. What happened in Kenya the last time. Uhuru Kenyatta refused to take part in the debate December last year. Why? Because he felt that the process was skewed. He felt, at times, some things are designed and you know that there are core people there who are hostile to government or who are hostile to your candidate, as the case may be. Either way. And Uhuru Kenyatta did not take part in debates. But I'm not saying it's not important, but he won though. He won resoundingly. He won Odinga resoundingly, but he did not take part in any of the debates. So, as important as that is, at times, the people may also understand. I look at Osun State recently. I mean, there was a neck-to-neck race, but the candidate of the PDP ran away from all debates. BBC televised debate, he ran away. He was only dancing. And dancing took him to 250,000 votes, almost winning the election. He was only dancing. He didn't say anything. So,
what's your biggest strength going into this election?
The biggest strength is not even incumbency. The biggest strength is not even the fact that the president has majority and overwhelming support from the areas where you have the largest votes in the country. The biggest strength is that people understand that they can trust this president and that within very limited resources, he has squeezed the water out of stone. And so if you now give him the river to get water out of river that we are expecting to come, when we move to the next level, Nigeria will be on the path to prosperity. For instance, in the first quarter of 2018, for the first time in many years, we achieved a figure of 577 billion naira from non-oil exports, total non-oil exports, agriculture and other solid minerals and all of that. 577 billion for the first time for many years because other sectors are expanding as it is now. So they know they can trust him. That is our biggest factor. But by the time you add the other factors to it, the factor of demographics, we don't want to go to that because this is not a political forum where we talk demographics. If you add the demographics to the trust, if you have the demographics
when
to
you
the
talk
performance,
about, what do you mean demographics? Which
demographics
demographics are you referring to?
We're talking about how people vote in Africa especially and the factors that influence voters.
Yeah, but I mean, the two main candidates are from the same region.
Oh, that's what you in the South here looks at. In the North, where he comes from, you think it's a monolithic North? It's not a monolithic North.
Of course it's not monolithic.
There's a Northwest.
Yes.
There's a Northeast.
Absolutely.
So all
and
of
there's
this
a North Central.
For instance now, people in the North will say, oh, the vice president and the vice presidential candidates are all from the South. And so it's not true. And it's not true because here in the South, the Yoruba man does not see himself as an Igbo man. So, but the people in the North say they're all Southerners. We in the South say they're all Northerners, but it's not true.
No, I think you have a point.
So there are demographics.
Yes.
If we go into the demographics here,
but that is precisely the point.
If we add trust, and I said trust first, don't forget that I'm not being mundane to go into demographics. I said trust, I said performance, and I added demographics. By the time you add these three together and you look at the realities on the ground, Atiku Abubakar will end his campaign tonight. He will just concede tonight.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, I have to thank you very much indeed, Mr. Festus Keyamo, for the time you've given us and for the time you've taken to very meticulously and very articulately explain the position of your candidate, President Buhari, as well as the APC in the upcoming election. Thank you very much indeed. Festus Keyamo is the spokesman for the Buhari campaign organization. He's also a senior advocate of Nigeria. That's it for this edition of Nigeria, The Road to 2019. Join us again for a fresh edition tomorrow. From me and the entire team here in Abuja, bye-bye, and thank you for watching. Thank you very much.